Hello, welcome to another episode of Full Circle with me, Onyx. And I'm kind of inspired to talk about what I call witchcraft and maybe the journey or the process of all things magical. But I specifically want to say that a witch in particular probably needs to go through the gateway of the great goddess of witchcraft, Hecate. Some people pronounce it Hecate. However, you form a connection with the goddess of witchcraft, the triple-fold goddess. You can call her just that. You don't need to get very specific. I like to leave it open and let the gods come to me. But the great goddess of the witch is a presence and energy specifically for witchcraft that I can only speak for myself and my experience. This is my channel. This is I'm just sharing from my experience and the way I see it. So, this, and so it's just been my personal experience that when I have encounters with divine beings, and for a time period in my life, a short time period, Hecate showed up for me. And so I feel this divine presence specifically for witchcraft, that frequency, that current of energy. I would highly suggest that this be something you're open to. You can work with whatever you want, but specifically for witchcraft, Hecate, with her hellhounds and her double torches, the labyrinth through the underworld, and her triple-fold nature. Surprisingly, when I feel like I'm working with Hecate, I feel like I'm working with an older, mature woman. So I don't really resonate. I haven't really, that's the form that when I was younger, that's the form that she was working with me. And I'm feeling her presence right now. Honestly. I'm gonna, debating. I was at this like antique shop that specializes in coins, and along the wall, um, that you would see from the window for like window shopping, they have all these antique bottles. And I saw one for my friend. And then I decided, you know what? This bottle's for me. I thought it was for my friend. It was calling to me and it was reminding me of my friend. But as soon as I picked it up, I knew it was for me. And it's just a very feminine jar. And I'm like, I don't do witch jars. And it's like, oh yes you do. And you do one for yourself now. It's needed. Like it's happening. So I had to surrender my ego. I had to surrender my beliefs and buy this jar. And I'm going to use it for positive intentions to support myself on my journey. But this is kind of secondary because a few days ago, Hecate basically channeled in spontaneously. I got the words that, like it or not, if you're a witch, you have to go through Hecate. She has to be endorsing you in some way. You have to pass through this gateway. You have to have this like initiation. Being in the presence of a deity is an initiation. So sometimes we get caught up in formal rituals, you know, an initiate, an adept, a teacher, a master, whatever it is. And we think there's a formality, uh, a ritual for these initiations. But there's natural initiations. As soon as you start working with the dead, that's an initiation. As soon as you have divine contact with the divine beings, that's a type of initiation. When you mature from being a child and you go into being an adult or into old age or even death itself, these are natural initiations. So I would say witchcraft in your maturity goes along with the seasons, the goddess of cycles. Cycles, being in tune with the earth, is very much what witchcraft is about. So, besides being endorsed by the great goddess Hecate, you also need to be a child of the earth. This is my opinion. And there's a earth is where the power is. Earth is where we are. Earth is where you are trying to create change to better your life. And so if you're not in harmony with the earth as a being, if you're not in an empathetic relationship with her and her inhabitants, I would say you might be practicing magic, but you aren't under the title witch. So you could be playing with tarot cards, you could be playing with candles, you could be making witch jars, you could be decorating yourself in certain ways. But for me, these two things have to happen. Cycles are very important to witchcraft. Staying in harmony with the moon. And so the earth and the moon and its relationship. And we have a tendency to neglect the sun. The sun is also a timekeeper of the seasons. And so we see this triple-fold relationship of the earth, the moon, and the sun. And then there you are, balancing these three forces. And so I would say during your whole process, doesn't matter what level you reach in your magic, in your witchcraft, you're probably like myself, always wanting to deepen your connection with the natural world. Fire, water, earth, and air, the earth itself, the moon, space, stars. Everything comes here to earth. Earth is like the center point. It's like a chalice at the bottom of the tree of life. And all the other spheres and all the dimensions, all possibility gets focused and is received by us, through us, and is also received through the earth. The earth is the fruit of heaven. So by developing your relationship with the earth, you get a key to high magic. You get a spiritual key to access heavenly realms. A lot of people do this backwards. They try to get the access to heavenly realms and want to not incarnate again on earth. They don't want to be, you know, they neglect the earth, they neglect their body, they neglect humanity, and they forget that we are here to be of service for ourselves and others in an ecosystem. So this me versus you type attitude is not, I wouldn't really say that's really a witch's attitude. A witch's attitude is there's all different forms of life, from microscopic to large and unknown, strange and mysterious, unique things. So there's this open minded, open hearted perspective. It's all inclusive. It's unity, consciousness through nature, through forms and functions, divine expressions. So I would say the reality of witches is they may not really concern themselves with angels. They may not really concern themselves with other deities. They're pretty, I would say, focused or centralized with the earth, the moon, and the dynamics, relationships. So hopefully that helps you in determining maybe where you're at in your witchcraft and maybe how you want to label yourself or how you represent witchcraft. I feel like Hollywood has movies, entertainment, folk tales create this image of a witch being like a hag, being like vengeful, being untrustworthy, being ugly. Um, and that could be a very and distorted image. That could be a very distorted image. That becomes a stereotype. Just like the fortune teller seen with a crystal ball and tarot cards, but then same with the psychic. And so with these images, when they're not clear, they're distorted, they become exaggerations, they become comical, they become stereotypical. And some people really identify with a stereotype. Their personality gets fused with the stereotype. And it's really a mask, or it's an act that we enjoy playing, but isn't really authentically representing the nature of our soul and where we're at on the journey. So I would say you can dispense with the costume. You can dispense with the character and these assumptions that we have. I think not all witches have a broom. Not all witches, cast spells. And so, maybe I would say if the title witch rubs you the wrong way, then maybe you're not a witch. Honestly. And I say this with a little bit of shock, hopefully, because we've kind of, religion and oneness movement and new age really tries to have us be all inclusive. We're going to accept everyone, every gender expression, every racial expression, every belief, and every philosophy, and we're just going to open up. And through this, I would say, expanding openness, we tend to then disintegrate the structure and boundaries of self-identity. Pretty soon we get lost in a crowd. Am I a gypsy? Am I a pagan? Am I a witch? Do I just practice hoodoo, or do I just do voodoo? Or am I now kind of bohemian and eclectic? So I'm going to pray to Jesus when it suits me. And then I'm going to pray to Shiva when it suits me. And then I'm going to pray to Ganesh when it suits me. I'm going to do voodoo on my boyfriend, but I'm going to pray to Jesus for my mom. And then I'm going to go get a tarot reading from a Satanist, but then go to the practicing hoodoo voodoo witch doctor down the street to get a prosperity spell. And so we're mixing a lot of TV shows, we're mixing a lot of channels, we're muddying the waters, and our identity or our focus and our purpose, instead of being clear and focused and crystallized as a single note sounding through the universe, a single chord, it's now distorted, it's blurry, it's diffused. And so then our magic is diffused. And so take some time to journal, write the pros and cons, see the gray area. Maybe in all this love and acceptance, you've become very gray and powerless. So neutrality is great. There's an active neutrality, and then there is a dead neutrality. The dead neutrality is kind of like a frog in hot water. You put the frog in at regular temperature, it's fine. Then you slowly turn it up, and the frog doesn't notice, but then it's too late, and now it's cooked. This happens with taking in too much information. This happens with not having a clear focus and purpose on what you want to learn. So, on one level, see, this gets complicated because witchcraft has been fought against. It's been demonized by Christian and Abrahamic faith. It's been socially a bad thing. And then there's political things with women and women's rights and women's activism. And then it became gender oriented. The queer movement, it seemed like we could all practice under witchcraft and paganism, under these new gender blender things. And so witchcraft in a weird way became like a safe haven. It became like a boarding house for all the misfits who wanted to be empowered. But it was like the only thing available was this thing called witchcraft. But we got gypsies and we got hippies and we got bohemians there. And then we have a whole mix of everything else. And so you're going to get, when you start looking into witchcraft, you're going to find out that all these books and grimoires, you're going to find a magical mojo bag in witchcraft. You're going to find it in hoodoo. You're going to find it in all these other different traditions. You're going to find the same cookie cutter recipe spells, and you're looking for true witchcraft, And so on one level, I feel like we all are brainwashed into thinking that witchcraft has a lot to do with magic. It has to do with casting spells, specifically candle spells, and speaking in rhyme poetic spells, like written spells. And I kind of feel like it's turned into that. So I gotta come back to all this. It's so dizzying tapping into all that and speaking about it. So, with witchcraft, in a weird way, having disintegrated roots that have been actively destroyed, like all cultures. When we look at true South American culture, it's been actively attacked. When we look at African culture, and when I say culture, I mean their spirituality, their traditions, their natural rituals, their ceremony. And then within that is their magical craft. Some call it shamanism, some call it witch doctoring or doctoring. Other cultures call it medicine. And we like to once again try to say it's all one thing: chi, prana, mana, energy. We want we try to create a universal context of understanding, but it's very possible that these are all very unique energy. Prana might be very distinct from chi, and prana and chi could be very distinct from bioenergy. Uh, a lot of us don't really understand that South American witchcraft is different than South American shamanism, and that's different than the mixed hybrid magical practices. I would assume Palomayumbe and Santeria. And so, even though there's a universality to all this, everyone can do ritual magic. Everyone has a right to have some degree of success with the natural shamanistic side of being a human being. But it doesn't make you a witch. It doesn't, unless you're really dialed into that and it's more authentic to your being. So, probably a natural talent. And then an endorsement from the other side in some form. So, a lot of people might call that a spiritual awakening. When I feel like in the West or Western society, modern society, we try to get that endorsement. We think we have to work and knock on the door of Aphrodite and get her to open the door. And then she opens the door and we're like, okay, now you're my patron mother and I choose you, Pokemon Go. No, it's not like Pokemon. It's more like the other way around. Your personality, your actual self, has a vibration that is harmonious with a deity, that is harmonious with a certain tree, that is in harmony with other animals. And when I think of harmony, I think of two notes that are not the same, but when they start coming together, they make a third note or a sound, and it's a blending that then complements these two forces that are not the same. So I think we get a little polarized. We're like, you might really resonate with something very gothic and underworld and dark. So you would assume, oh, I should be working with Hades or Persephone. But the reality is really what you need to balance out with is Apollo and Helios and a sun deity to balance out all your goth. So one of the big rules or laws in nature and universe is balance. If your artwork is balanced, it looks good. If your design is balanced, its structure has integrity, it lasts. So balance is a huge law in magic, in physics. And it doesn't always have to be a symmetrical balance. It can be an asymmetrical balance. And so what balances your personality might be a force that you might reject because you go, oh, that's not me. It's not what I identify with. We have a tendency to look at our history and from this history, look at ourselves from a place of lack and try to fill that void. And we'll go for things that we don't see in ourselves. So you might not see an empowered, and that may not be the truth of you. The truth is you might be a very powerful, healthy individual, but that your history and the story you tell yourself and the image you look at when you look in the mirror is distorted. So part of the process is a self-discovery process. Like, honestly, I never thought I would be contacting Hecate. Like, I wasn't like, I'm a witch and I want to work with you. No, I was pretty loyal to Lilith. I was pretty loyal, very loyal to Kali. And so you may be also working with other deities. You might have that door opened for you, and you might feel like an allegiance, which is very common, but it doesn't mean that is the deity that is in charge of supporting you on your journey and teaching you and guiding you. Uh, so as far as all witchcraft is concerned, it will be Hecate for me. Doesn't mean I don't go to my spiritual mother, Kali, for psychic attack, spiritual warfare. So when it goes to spiritual warfare, I go straight to Kali. That's it. You know, when I and my advisor, when I'm trying to just, so you can work with all these different things, but just know according to your personality and what is attracted to you and what naturally comes into your circle to assist you, those are your familiar spirits. Those are the beings that choose you and who are going to support your magic and make it more powerful. And so, and it's going to take a while. I mean, me and Kali worked together for probably a good 15 to 20 years. She was by my side nonstop. And at the beginning, I didn't even know who she was. And she was a very powerful force. She literally took over my life. And I didn't realize how it was just like probably the wildest, most enjoyable time of my life. Honestly, the energy, the sensuality, the the power was amazing, but it came to me freely, and it was a beautiful experience. And then to contrast it, I'm in a new path, learning new lessons, and now I understand what it's like not to be on that high, powerful current of energy. Now I have contrast, so then I can have even more gratitude for my goddess, and I can't wait to meet her again when it's time. So now there's also this anticipation. Um, so, and this is like literally the depth of relatability you need to have with your familiar spirit, with your guide. I wouldn't really want to call it a guide. I work with deities. I mean, that's just a natural gift of mine. I work with the gods. Um, and so, like, gods are definitely different for me than angels. And, like, it's not the same playing field. It's like definitely different functions. Uh, but yes, to wrap it up, this might help you understand. Do you just play with magic and paganism floats your boat because you don't have to choose? Because you don't have to be clear? Because you like being free spirited and not making a crystal clear choice on a path? Maybe you just need a little push. Oh, I now see the benefits of taking on a clear path or definition. It might clarify things and give me power. Like, and so, like, when my angels showed up, my devotion level was naturally there. I'm like, you showed up for me. Out of all the angels in the universe, you showed up for me. Why would I not devote myself? And why would I not really respect that? And why would I not give you the respect that you deserve? That's how I felt about Kali. Out of all the goddesses in the whole universe I could ever pick and choose from, you showed up for me. And you did more than show up for me. You walked by my side day by day. Literally, we were as close as could possibly be. Inseparable for like 15 to 20 years. And I was like, that's pretty close. That's closer in relationship than my brothers and sisters. So that type of, it's a natural bond. It's a natural devotion. And in a weird way, kind of a worship. But it's not like a religious worship. It's not like I'm lighting candles and saying prayers to them. It's like, why would I do that? You're in my room. Why would I do that? You're channeling through me. Why would I do that? You're manifesting. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. So it depends upon what level of the game you're playing at. If you're just learning to invite the powers that be into your life, then yeah, you're going to probably write down a little prayer and say it out loud and light a candle and, let it burn down. And that's fine. You're putting it out there. And that's fine. Put it out there. I remember when I put it out there, I summoned Thoth, the Egyptian ibis god of knowledge and wisdom, the scribe. And I didn't know hieroglyphics, so I just drew a picture of Thoth and I lit it on fire. And I drew 3 of them and lit them on fire consecutively. I go, power of 3. This is probably going to work. And it did. I immediately had visions. He immediately met me. 3 levels of reality opened up. I saw him looking down. And then I went to sleep. He met me in the dreams. He met me in lucid dreams. And that's how I summons Thoth from the beginner level. But once that door was open, then the door is open. And so it could be something as simple as that, writing their name on a piece of paper.